now going to actually come out of the woods, right, and like come and talk to her, okay? So he's over here, and he's going to actually make himself known. At first, she's not going to realize that it's him, just because it's very dark out, but she will then eventually recognize him. So we're on page 1068, the middle of the page, line 49, where Romeo speaks.
I take thee at thy word. Call me with love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth, I never will be Romeo.
What man art thou that thus bescreened in night so stumblest on my counsel?
By a name I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. Had I it written, I would tear the word.
My ears have yet not drunk 100 words of that tongue's utterance, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague?
Neither, fair saint, if either thee dislike.
How camest thou hither? Tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here.
With love's like wings did I o'erperch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out. And what love can do, that dares love attempt, therefore thy kinsmen are no let to me.
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
Alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
I would not for the world they saw thee here.
I have night's cloak to hide me from their sight, and but thou love me, let them find me here. My life were better ended by their hate than death prorogued walking of thy love.
Okay, so at first she doesn't realize that it's him, and then she says in line 58, my ears have not yet drunk 100 words of that tongue's utterance, yet I know the sound. So she recognizes his voice. This is personification, right? Your ears are not capable of drinking something. So this is personification. And then she asks how he got there, and typical Romeo, like exaggerating, right? He says that love's light wings lifted him over the wall because stony limits cannot hold love out. And Juliet wisely points out that if they catch him, they're going to murder him, right? Because he's a Montague, and he has snuck back into the Capulet house, which he wasn't supposed to be at in the first place. But again, over emotional, dramatic, exaggerating, right? He says that basically her love will protect him. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity. And then in the next lines, like 75 through 79, he talks about my life were better ended by their hate than death prorogued wanting of thy love. So he's like, it would be better to die knowing that you love me than live without your love, right? Which is like, again, a little bit dramatic. Okay. In this next section, Juliet is going to talk about how she feels kind of embarrassed that Romeo overheard her saying all of this. So at this time period, it really wouldn't be, I don't know, girls and women especially wouldn't really like so openly express their feelings, especially to someone that like they didn't really know very well, right?
They just met.
Yeah, that they just met. So she's gonna feel kind of embarrassed that she has like just laid it all out there. So that's what she's going to be talking about here.
By whose direction foundst thou out this place?
By love that first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as that vast shore washed with the farthest sea, I would adventure for such merchandise.
Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. Yet if thou swearest, thou mayst prove false. At lovers' perjuries they say Jove laughs. Oh, gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or if thou thinkst I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse, and say thee nay, so thou wilt woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayst think my behavior light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. I should have been more strange, I must confess, but that thou overheardst ere I was ware my true love's passion. Therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love which the dark night hath so discovered.
Okay, so she says that she's blushing, right? Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek. So she's embarrassed that he overheard her because it's just sort of not like proper at this time, right? She asks, do you love me? In line 90. And then she says, I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word, yet if thou swearest, thou mayest prove false. So she's saying like, she's like, I know that you're gonna say yes, but you could be lying. Okay, and then in line 95 through 101, she's kind of like saying that she hopes that he doesn't think that she's too like easily won or that she's too outspoken because she has said all of this. And she kind of says like, even though it seems like I've fallen in love quickly, like I'm still gonna be more true to you and more faithful to you than like someone else, right? Like she's like, I'm not playing games with you, essentially. Okay. All right, top of page 1070.
Lady, by yonder blessed moon I swear that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops.
Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable.
What shall I swear by?
Do not swear at all. Or if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the God of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee.
Okay, so Romeo's like, I swear, right? He's like ready to make this big declaration of love. He's gonna swear by the moon. And she says not to swear by the moon. Right? Why does she not want him to swear by the moon? What about the moon would make her not want to swear by it? She says, oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. Good, like the moon changes all the time, right? And so she doesn't want his love to change all the time like the moon does. Okay, so it's always varying, and like, why would you want your love to be like that, right? You want your love to be constant. All right. We're at the top of page 1071, and Juliet's going to kind of start to feel, she's going to hesitate a little bit and start to feel like maybe this is moving too quickly, okay? And then Romeo's going to kind of try to convince her that it's not.
My heart's dear love.
Well, do not swear. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be ere one can say it lightens. Sweet, good night. This bud of love by summer's ripening breath may prove a beauteous flower when next we meet. Good night. Good night. Has sweet repose and rest come to thy heart as that within my breast?
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine.
I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again.
Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love?
But to be frank and give it thee again. And yet I wish but for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Madam! Anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little. I will come again.
Okay, so she says at the top of the page here, it is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, right? So she's saying like, maybe this is going too quickly. Maybe we need to like give it some more time, okay? Romeo then says, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? She says, what satisfaction canst thou have tonight? He says, the exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine. And she sort of says like, duh, I already told you I loved you, right? She says in line 133, my bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. What kind of figurative language is that?
Metaphor.
Not a metaphor. Simile, yeah. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. So we've got those ases in there. Okay, and then the nurse calls her. When she says anon, it's like just a second, or like, see right there, or, you know, hang on. That's what anon means. You'll hear it several times throughout here. So pay attention to these stage directions, right? So Juliet exits for a minute, and then she's gonna come back out, and then she'll leave again, and she'll cut, because the nurse is like calling her, and obviously Juliet doesn't want Romeo to get caught there, so she's trying to like keep the nurse from finding out what she's doing.
Oh, blessed, blessed night. I am afeard, being in night, all this is but a dream. Too flattering sweet to be substantial.
3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, by purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite. And all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. Madam, I come anon. But if thou mean'st not well, I do beseech thee. Madam, by and by I come. To cease thy suit and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send.
So thrive my soul,
1,000 times good night.
1,000 times the worse to want thy light. Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love toward school with heavy looks.
Okay, I'll stop there for just a second. Okay, so what is Juliet suggesting here? At the bottom of page 1071. Three words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow, by one that I'll procure to come to thee. Where and what time thou wilt perform the rite. What's she suggesting that they do? Get married, okay? So question 4 on your study guide is, which one is the first to mention marriage? And it's Juliet. Okay, what does this tell us about her character, right? Romeo's like, I love you, I love you. And Juliet's like, maybe we're going to, like, you know, like she's not trying to, like, I don't know. She's trying to, like, you know, make him marry her, right? Like, because at this time, it's not like you would date someone, right? Like we talked about before. So she's basically saying, like, I'm not going to let you just, like, kiss all up on me and not commit, right? So it's not like he would be her boyfriend. And it's not like, because their families are enemies, again, he can't, like, formally court her or anything like you might be, like what Paris is doing. So this kind of shows us what about her character? What do you think? So to me, I would say it shows that she's like respectable, like she like values her honor, like she's not going to like, yeah, she's cautious, right? She's not just gonna like let him mess around with her, right? Okay, so even though we think like, don't you think marriage is like moving a little fast? Yeah, to us that seems really fast, but to her, what she's really saying is like, you know, you have to like commit to being with me. You can't just like tell me that you love me and then like kiss all up on me and stuff and then not commit to it, right? Because that's just sort of what the time period was. They couldn't, it's not like they could date, right? Like they aren't gonna like hang out. They would have to be married. And then at the top of page 1072, she says that if he doesn't want to marry her, cease thy suit and leave me to my grief. So she's basically saying like, you can either marry me or you just need to leave me alone. But like, basically saying like, don't mess around, like don't play around with me. Like you either want to marry me or you're just going to leave me alone. And again, that seems extreme to us in our modern society where people date and stuff like that, but that really wasn't what happened back then. Okay. She says 1,000 times good night, and he says 1,000 times the worse to want thy light. What kind of figurative language do we have in those two lines? Is she really going to say goodnight 1,000 times?
No.
No, so what is that? Hyperbole, okay, it's an exaggeration. Okay, she's going to come back once again, and they're going to say goodbye, hopefully, finally, right? This is kind of one of those like, no, you hang up first. No, you hang up first, right? But it's in person. Like she keeps saying like, okay, I'm leaving. And he's like, no, you're not. And then she's like, no, I'm really going to leave this time, right? So just kind of going back and forth here.
Hist, Romeo, hist! And for a falconer's voice to lure this tassel gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak aloud, else would I tear the cave where echo lies, and make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo's name. Romeo!
It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
Romeo!
My sweet,
What o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?
by the hour of 9.
I will not fail. 'Tis 20 years till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back.
Let me stand here till thou remember it.
I shall forget to have thee still stand there, remembering how I love thy company.
And I'll still stay to have thee still forget, forgetting any other home but this.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no farther than a wanton's bird that lets it hop a little from her hand like a poor prisoner in his twisted gyves, and with a silk thread plucks it back again, so loving, jealous of his liberty.
I would I were thy bird.
Sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly father's cell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell.
Okay, so a couple figurative language things to point out here. Line 170, 'tis 20 years till then. Alliteration, right? The repetition of that T sound. 'Tis 20 years till then. We also have a metaphor in line 185. Parting is such sweet sorrow. Okay, so like having to say goodbye is a sweet sorrow. Also a little bit of an oxymoron there with sweet sorrow, like if you're sad, how is it sweet? Okay, so she tells him that she's going to send someone to him at 9 to find out sort of what the plan is to get married, okay? And then he says that he is going to go off in line 189, hence will I to my ghostly father's cell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell. So that's like his like spiritual advisor or a priest, okay? So he's gonna go talk to his priest and tell him the good news and try to make a plan for them to get married, okay? So that's the end of scene 2. And I realized we didn't answer number 2. How does Romeo find out how Juliet feels about him? I mean, a little bit, but
He was standing in the woods and overheard.
yeah, he overhears. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong when you say that he stalks her a little bit. Okay, so that's the end of scene 2. So just for time's sake, if you want to jot down a